What up, sports fans and fellow foodies? I'm Julie, and welcome to my kitchen, where each week I talk sports while whipping up culinary treats. Tonight we are talking about pressure. Pressure can burst pipes. It can also create diamonds. What does it do in the kitchen? We're going to find out, as tonight we're going to make some pan-seared scallops along with a caramelized onion jam and a Hollandaise sauce to finish it off. We're going to do it lickety-split, and we're going to tie it into the Cubs, the White Sox, and the Masters today. Every one of them had a different kind of pressure. You had the Masters, a slow, quiet pressure. It builds. It's not loud, but it's consistent, and it builds as Rory McIlroy hangs on to win back-to-back Masters, just the fourth time in history that has happened, along with Nicklaus, Faldo, and Tiger Woods, who did it last in the early 2000s. Then you had the Cubs, explosive under pressure. You had the Cubs with a 5-0 deficit in the early going as Jameson Taillon struggled, gave up a grand slam to put the Cubs in a 5-0 hole. They battled back. And in fact, Michael Busch in the 8th inning, he went into it, his pinch hit at bat, with an 0 for 30 slump, and he snapped it. He wound up getting the game-tying hit, and then the Cubs would walk it off in the bottom of the ninth. Does it get more dramatic than that? Instead, they had Carson Kelly come up, bases loaded, 1 out. He hits one to about the right center field track, and that's it. Game over. Cubs walk it off and win. After being down 5-0, they walk it off 7-6. The White Sox also trying to avoid the sweep, just like the Cubs were. White Sox, miserable offense lately, but they came through in the clutch today as well. Dustin Harris, he's pinch hitting for the White Sox. He winds up getting on base with a double, and then he scores the game-winning run on a wild pitch. Pressure personified. The White Sox had to hang on. That pressure was more of a hold it, don't let it break kind of pressure. As their relievers, they used 9 pitchers in 9 innings today. Crazy, tied a club record. But their last 4 relievers pitched 4 1/3 hitless innings to lock that game down. White Sox win 6-5. All right, so we're going to tie all those kinds of pressure in to what we're making here today. We're going to start with that slow build, just like you see in the Masters. And that's where I've got a pan going back here. It's already heating up. I'm going to go ahead and add some olive oil and some butter to my pan here, and we're going to start caramelizing some onions, and that's going to make our onion jam. So one nice hot pan, but we don't want the heat to be too high because those onions, they just need to go low and slow for a while so they soften. So we're going to get that working, and we will join this one already in progress, as they like to say in TV. All right, so I got some butter softening in there, and I'm going to dump in about 2 yellow or white onions. You can use whichever ones you prefer. And they'll give you a sweeter taste. And you use about 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter for about 2 medium onions. So you hear that little gentle sizzle? We're going to let that work for a while and let those soften. Keep it probably low to medium heat. So that's what we got working on here. We do not want those to scorch. All right, we're going to come back over here. And now we're going to start on our Hollandaise sauce. We're going to do the scallops last, because scallops wait for no one. So, but I do have my pan heating up here. I can feel the heat coming off of it. I'm going to use a mason jar to do the Hollandaise sauce, because we're going to do kind of a cheaters version, and I'll explain that in a second. We're going to add 3 egg yolks, along with some fresh lemon juice, probably about a tablespoon or so. Splash that in here. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in a little pinch of salt. We love salt in the kitchen. And then a little bit of Dijon mustard. You don't have to add it, but it's a good stabilizer. So just a little squirt or so, maybe about a teaspoon, half a teaspoon. All right, so that's going to build our base. What I'm doing, you can do this with a whisk. You would have a metal bowl over a simmering pot of warm water, hot water. You don't want it boiling. You want it simmering. You put the metal bowl over it and you whisk. We're going to do a little cheaters version with my good friend, the immersion blender or the stick blender. Check on my onions here because I hear them sizzling. We're doing fine back here on the stove. All right, I'm going to take this in here and we're just going to pulse. It's going to make a little bit of noise. But that is making our base. for our Hollandaise sauce. Just a little bit of whisking with my immersion blender. All right, here's the key. We're gonna let that settle for a second. Then we're gonna take 1 whole stick of melted butter. Not hot, it's warm, not melted. Rather not hot. And we're gonna go ahead and pour this in while we're blending. And it's gonna emulsify, it's going to blend it for us. So we're gonna do this as we gently pour our butter in. And it's gonna thicken up. And wait till you see how this all comes together. So this one is like the White Sox. Don't let it break. Bend but don't break. Actually, that bullpen didn't even bend. It's pretty spectacular. There were 2 guys pitching. I didn't even hear of them till today. All right, we got our butter in there. I'm going to blend it a little bit more. You can hear from that sound, it's thickened. You can see it. It's got a beautiful creamy yellow color. And just like that, we've got a beautiful Hollandaise sauce ready for our final plate up. So I am just going to put that right there. We've got our sauce ready. We've got our onions working, and we're gonna get started here on our scallops. I'm gonna use grapeseed oil. We talked about this about 2 weeks ago when we were doing shrimp. The grapeseed oil has a higher smoke point, so you don't have to worry about it burning as much. We're gonna coat our pan. I've got a low heat here. I'm gonna kick it up a little bit because we want that sear. We want that golden edge to your scallops, which I have right here on my paper towel because we patted them dry. Moisture is not your friend when you're searing the scallops. You want as much moisture out of them as you can. Give a quick check on my onions over here. Still not browning. We want them softened. It's gonna take like 7 to 10 minutes, so we won't get that far, but we're setting it up for you. All right, we got that working. We've got our Hollandaise sauce ready. And now we're gonna work on those scallops. So this is the Cubs. The Cubs had the explosive under pressure. They came up big, they walked it off in the 9th. Who doesn't love a walk-off in the bottom of the 9th? Unless you're the team it's against. But if the team you're rooting for walks it off, that's drama. Gotta love it. All right, so we are gonna start putting these in. You're gonna hear that sizzle, which tells you it's nice and hot. And actually, I'm gonna give them a little bit of salt right before I put them in. You don't want to salt them too early because that is going to create more moisture. And again, we're staying away from that moisture. So, let's get that sizzle going, maybe a little more heat. And these are a Gordon Ramsay favorite. We want to make sure they're not raw. You donut. I love Gordon Ramsay. I could watch him on TV all day long. All right, so I got my beautiful scallops layered in here. And we are not going to touch them. Once they're in there, let them be. Don't poke them, don't prod them, don't flip them. Let them go. Let them go, as they say in Frozen. All right, so they're working in there. They're sizzling. You hear it. That sear, that pop, that's the roar of the crowd when the Cubs came back in that game today. All right, got that working. Just a reminder, if we need to test our pan before we put the oil in, little splash of water. If it gives you that sizzle and it's kind of starting to ball up, then you know it's ready, it's hot enough. So this, I can feel the heat coming off of it. Again, I've got some nice browning going on there, but we're not gonna touch them just yet. About 1.5 minutes to each side, maybe 2 minutes, but we don't want them to get burnt either. So we'll check on those in a bit. If they're not sticking, you're good to flip. All right, so we've got our sauce set up. I've got my onions here working. What you're gonna be looking for with your onions, once they're soft, then you're gonna let them work in here till they get caramelized. For that, and again, mine aren't quite soft enough yet, but I've got a tablespoon of sugar I'm gonna put in there. And then, once they start caramelizing, you're gonna put in a little splash of balsamic vinegar. I used one that's an apple balsamic. You can use flavored or regular, but that's gonna give you some added tang, and it's also gonna give you a little different color to it. So, right now, we're just trying to get to that caramelized stage, like when you walk into the ballpark and you smell the caramelized onions. All right, that's working. Our scallops are working. Let's take a look here. Give them a little flip. Gorgeous, gorgeous color. You can see that. Don't want to burn myself here. But they have gorgeous color on them. So I'm going to go ahead and start flipping. get those ready for some butter. That'll finish it off. Nice little sexy finish to our scallops. Again, we love salt in the kitchen, we love butter. All right, such pretty color on these. And wait till you see our plate up. This is gonna be something you can serve company. Heck, you can serve it to your friends and family and they're gonna be impressed. And I say, what do we do to deserve this nice dinner? All right, so that's working right now. Again, pressure was key today. The Masters, Rory McIlroy, he went into the weekend with a 6-stroke lead. Extremely impressive the first 2 days. And then he allowed it to crumble. And in fact, on the final day, as they were hitting the back 9, Justin Rose was in control. Rory McIlroy was not. But Rose crumbled under pressure on the back 9. And McIlroy made it interesting on the 18th when he hit his tee shot into the trees. You could hear the gasp from the crowd because everyone's waiting for him to just finish it off. He's one of the last 2 golfers on the course. Hit it into the trees. It's crazy to watch. All right, we've got these working here. And beautiful color, top and bottom. So I'm going to add a little bit of butter just to finish them off. Again, more butter is better in my book. So I got a couple tablespoons here. I'm just gonna throw in a bunch. And we are going to allow those, as the butter's working, you can see it's got a nice little foam to it. And we're just gonna kinda pour it over our working scallops here. Oops, a little bit of fire under pressure. All right, beautiful, beautiful buttery scallops. Nice color on each side. We're looking pretty here. And we can get ready to start our plate up, which is the ultimate finish to a pressure-packed day, whether it's at the ballpark or on the golf course or in the kitchen. We're cool under pressure here, we got this. All right, I'm gonna turn this down just a little bit as we finish them off. I'm gonna grab a plate, and we're gonna do a little fancy plating here for you. So, to check back on our jam, again, these are not caramelized yet, they're still softening. If you rush it, you will ruin the texture of your onions. You don't want them to be stringy, you don't want them to be chewy. When I finished mine, this is how they came out. I know, looks kind of like blackberry jam, right? But that's partly from the caramelization, and it's partly from the awesome balsamic vinegar I added there. Again, you don't have to use the fruit flavored ones. I did because I wanted a little bit more of a complex taste. But once they caramelize, that's when you're going to add that splash of balsamic vinegar. We call that deglazing the pan. It gets all those bits off the bottom, and it helps to thicken things up for you a little bit. All right, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put a little bit of my beautiful caramelized onion jam on here. We're just going to use this kind of as a bed in the back here for the scallops. And it looks so dark on the plate, but it has such a beautiful, vibrant, complex flavor profile. So I'm just going to put that back here because we're going to layer some scallops across it. And if it gets a little too thickened for you, you can always add a little bit of hot water, toss it in the microwave, it'll soften it up for you. So I'm going to do that. And then we're going to go ahead and start adding our scallops to the plate. Look at how pretty these turned out. Absolutely beautiful in color. Oh, I'm just loving how beautiful they look. They're nice and intact. They're not falling apart. Gordon Ramsay, you would be so proud of me, wouldn't you? Got a runaway one there. Clean the plate, and a good chef does that. All right, so we've got our little bed of our caramelized onion jam. It's kind of almost like a chutney. We've got our scallops here. I got a few more in the pan, but we're not going to crowd it right now. Then we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of color on the plate. Got a couple things that'll work nicely here. So one of them is a balsamic glaze. I'm going to go ahead and grab that out of my drawer here. Balsamic glaze, one of my favorites for plating. I can do just a nice little splash here, kind of like this. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some color. We've got sprigs of thyme, which we can do like this. Or I got a little bit of broccoli sprouts, which you can add here as well. All right, and now for our finishing touch, we're gonna go ahead and spoon some of our beautiful Hollandaise sauce over our scallops. Give it a little color. It's gonna make it nice and springy looking here, as I'm just gonna do a pretty little drizzle. And it's gonna taste so beautiful against that jam. All right, so that's how our pressure-packed plate came together. Look at that, you can knock that out fast, and I know you can handle this. Just like the Cubs and the White Sox and Rory McIlroy handled things today. And if you're a Sox fan, Tuesday, must-see TV, Noah Schultz, their #1 pitching prospect, he's getting the call-up. We'll see how he handles the pressure on Tuesday night. Thanks for joining me. I'm Julie. I'll see you next time right here in my kitchen.